Hi everyone, my name is Utkarsh and I'm here to talk to you about building your category of one with the help of curiosity, content, and community. Category of one is a concept that I advanced in a Harvard Business Review article that I wrote last year. And Network Capital, the company that I run, its mission is to help every person and every organization on their planet build their category of one. Category of one is an idea that transcends competition. We are in a content summit. So often we think of content as a commodity. We try to write the best piece of content, the number one best selling book, the most viral YouTube video. And I think that is, of course, one way to look at life. But in the long term, if we want to survive and build something that is truly unique and serves a real purpose in the world, we all have to transcend competition and serve our community with skills and networks and opportunities and content that only we can offer. Let's take my network capital as a small case study. So, essentially, what are we trying to do? Why have we come up with this mission of helping each person, every organization build their category of one? And the answer is very simple. Uh, we want our community members and the world at large to learn to play infinite games. Instead of trying to say, how do I beat this organization? How do I come number one? How do I come number two? How about if we flip this equation? And instead of competing with each other, how do we radically collaborate with each other? So, this is an interesting concept advanced by NYU professor James Carson, and he talked about finite and infinite games. So, finite games are those where the rules are fixed and set, and the whole experience follows a predictable pattern. For example, let's look at a game of cricket or a game of football. These games have rules that are preset. Everyone knows that players will come at a certain time, there'll be an interval at a certain time, and we will all have to accomplish a set goal. However, if you look at life, when you look at careers, the one passion that I have, my whole company is built around the concept of careers. If you look at anything that matters in the world in the 21st century, it needs to be looked at with rules that are being figured out as we advance. So the rules aren't fixed, the context keeps changing. So, one of the most important things that we need to keep in mind is that everything that matters essentially follows the infinite game mindset, where the whole purpose is just to keep playing. Companies don't fail because the entrepreneur or the team runs out of ideas or they're executing poorly. They're, of course, like contributing factors, but the bottom line is companies fail and communities fail when they fail to recognize the mission that they are serving and they run out of energy. So instead of trying to beat another person or trying to become the number one content creator, we need to figure out what can we solve or bring to bear in our respective communities that we are uniquely suited to solve. In Network Capital's case, we realized that we've built the world's largest network of professionals who are kind, who are accomplished, and who love scaling themselves with the power of content. So, what we did was that we empowered a lot of our community members with distinguished credentials and a generosity of spirit to produce long form masterclasses for us, to write newsletters, to do podcasts with us, conduct live cohort based courses. So, we basically figured out our role in the entire ecosystem and looked at what is it that we can uniquely do for our community to serve them in surprising and delightful ways. And we never thought of how do we become the number one education company? How do we become better than company X or company Y? But by focusing on our true value, our core purpose, we built our category of one. Today, if you look at network capital, it's come a long way. It started out as a passion project that I worked on or built or nurtured while I was working at Microsoft. And then eventually it scaled itself. And recently we raised funding from Facebook. And we are terribly excited about the future of where we are going because we know that our mission is still the same, what it was in day one, to serve our community members and help them build distinguished careers, create the category of one. If there is one thing you take away from today's masterclass, is a renewed sense of purpose about what you're trying to do and why. And the ultimate mission is to play infinite games and build your category of one. What you'll realize about the category of one concept is that you can't do this alone. You need the help of a community. And that brings me to the first pillar of today's talk. Essentially, everything that I know about, everything I'm here perhaps sharing, is because I've built and scaled one of the world's largest communities without spending a single dollar on marketing. Community is the single most economic and social asset of network capital. And I really believe that in the times to come, chief community officer will be a top corporate job, just the way, say, a chief financial officer, chief operating, or a chief executive officer is. And I think in different capacities, all creators, all everyone who's part of the summit is in some shape or form trying to either build a community or be a part of it. Network capital is one example, but there should be millions of network capital. I hope all of you go on to produce and create many organizations that scale and have the power to really catapult the company in a different direction. Community is about scaling trust, it's about scaling intimacy, and it's creating this larger narrative about a shared sense of purpose. So, from the beginning, we on Network Capital constantly kept reiterating the fact that every person on the planet has something to learn and something to share. All we need to do is to build a culture and a community where peer to peer learning can happen at scale. And by reinforcing that message, we attracted a very particular kind of audience. And this audience was, of course, interested in building the category of one and, more importantly, helping others build their category of one. And I think uh, the way we looked at the community building as a concept was not to sort of simply monetize ourselves or build an interesting business model, but essentially, how do we create the world's largest career bank or knowledge bank in the world? It can't happen with one person or two people or 10 people. It needs to pool in the intelligence, intellect, and empathy of millennials from around the world. So we started conducting experiments from Patna to Paris, from Lucknow to London, from New Delhi to New York, and started building these micro communities, completely volunteer driven in the start. And now we've seen that these communities have organically blossomed and come together to form a larger network capital meta network, which has 110,000 plus verified members who love learning and sharing with each other. And today, if I look at why Facebook funded network capital, it was only and only on the basis of the community. The community created the content for us. We had Indra Nui, the former CEO of Pepsi, create a masterclass for us recently. We've had Nobel laureates on network capital. We've had Fortune 500 CXOs, top politicians, people from around the world, some of people who are speaking at this particular summit as well. And all of these things, the mystery is that they've all been part of our community from the beginning. Um, from the time or from the day I started Network Capital, I have not felt alone or lonely because even on the worst day, I still had the support of thousands of community members who understood and appreciated why this mission is important for the world, why it is important for their neighborhood, and why is it important for the larger society that we're all trying to co-create. So my lesson or insight as a friend is that in today's world, The ability to reinvent ourselves and adapt ourselves is perhaps going to be the most important skill. Reinvention is not possible, alone. So either build a community or be a part of a community that truly resonates with you. I hope you join Network Capital, but there are other communities that are doing extraordinary jobs as well. So it doesn't matter which communities you're part of, just choose a direct or a wide range of ones and constantly look for your own frustration. People kept coming to me in an ad hoc fashion, asking for advice on, cracking a top business school. How do you get a job at Microsoft? How do you get to go to this conference? How do you publish in this particular platform? And I realized that, I love helping people. I'm happy to share what I know, but my knowledge is not going to be enough, at least not enough at scale. I will need to create a platform, a culture, and a system that codifies all of this knowledge and scales it. And that's the power of a community driven system. Network effects are typically defined as a system where the addition of every new person makes the network stronger. So, when you're building a community, you have to keep in mind that there is intimacy with small size. When, say, Pepper, the host of the conference, was a company of two people, I met uh, the founder back then when he was just thinking about it, and we had multiple conversations around the future of the company. At that time, there is a deep intimacy that exists. And many companies lose that sense of intimacy as they grow in terms of community size, organization size, and so forth. I'm very happy to share that Pepper seems to be doing a wonderful job of building that community with size. And to some extent, I see that in most successful companies around the world. I think in the long run, if network capital, does as well as I dream and hope it does, it will have to figure out a way to nurture that intimacy, that same sense of belonging that existed when we were a group of 100 people or 1,000 people or 10,000 people. So network effects have been so far really beneficial to network capital. The addition of every new member makes the community smarter. We want to make sure that we go after the or invite the right set of people who are givers at heart, who understand why we exist and are able to bring specific value to the network. Um, that is why, in the past 1.5 years, especially during the pandemic, I saw our community members come together in really interesting ways, in ways that go beyond careers. So they stepped up for each other during the times of need, in emergencies, both health, finance, and other kinds of ways. I saw this peer to peer mentorship transcend to peer kindness. And that's another beauty of a community that scales, keeping the important design principles in mind. Yes, people come for, say, a masterclass or a product, but then they discover the community and then they realize that, this is a community that they find a strong resonance with. They resonate with its mission and they find a sense of deep belonging and purpose with it. So when you're building a community or being part of a community, ask yourself, how can I add specific value to this system right here, right now? And imagine if this is the mindset with which everybody enters the community is bound to scale, keeping that intimacy alive. Communities scale, especially the ones that successfully scale, are the ones that are able to scale intimacy, trust, and sense of belonging. Intimacy, trust, and sense of belonging. So these are the key design principles that were important to network capital on day one, and they are important to network capital today and in eternity. I would consider us a success, not if we become a unicorn or do this or do that. I told you I don't look at life or success in metrics. I do network capital because I love my job. And I think my success as a CEO and a community builder is one thing. Do network capital members feel a sense of intimacy and belonging every single day? By keeping and asking myself this question, we have scaled in a non traditional way. We spend nothing on sales or marketing or anything. Our growth comes from the fact that our community members typically enjoy being a part of that experience very much. Today, we had meetups in London, New Delhi, and Paris. And all of these meetups, when offline people connect, they're able to take the bonds that they developed online learning from each other and add a whole new layer to that intimacy. And I think that is something that is really important. So keep community at the heart of building your ultimate pursuit of category of one. It'll help you take concrete steps in the right direction. But the next question you might ask yourself is that if network capital doesn't or didn't spend anything on sales or marketing or doing all of those kinds of things, and if we only relied on word of mouth, what was most memorable for our community members? And I have to say, content proved to be vital as a growth strategy for network capital, producing distinguished content, inviting category of one people like Indra Nui, like Dr. Shashi Tharoor, like Nobel laureate Robert Schiller, having really bright young professionals who are building their category of one teach on our platform networkcapital.tv. We created a strong brand for ourselves as sort of the curator of the best content available online in this particular area. And when I say best, I just mean category of one. There are brilliant content creators as part of this summit, some of whom I've known and followed. We're not trying to be better than them or worse than them. As I said, they should do what they love. They should do what they excel at. We will continue to do what we excel at. And our content constantly is focused on just one goal. How do we make our community members 1% better every single day? So we write newsletters, produce masterclasses, live cohort-based courses, and there's a very clear weekly cadence that we follow. Since we know that we are not going to be spending on sales or marketing in the never have in the times to come, it's unlikely. We want to make sure that the growth engine for what we are trying to do is rooted in content. And what does content really mean? Is writing for the heck of writing content? Does the internet really need more clickbaity articles? I don't want to be, famous. I don't want network capital to become, a very viral kind of a thing. It's like these are byproducts. But over the long run, you will realize that the content that lasts and is memorable is the content which is serving a unique purpose. Today, for example, our subscribers got a newsletter documenting the career of somebody called Kiran Gandhi. She's a Harvard MBA turned musician turned activist. So, this is a deeply documented newsletter, rich with insights, coupled with a masterclass, followed by an announcement of a live cohort based course, where we're talking about and looking at one person's career as a deep dive. Now, this particular form of content takes a while to produce. You can't simply have it ready in 10 minutes. This requires research, editing. It takes a lot of complex coordination to put it in motion. But once it's there, our subscribers feel delighted. We're a subscription based company, Network Capital. We make money only through subscriptions, either from individual customers or from businesses. Now, subscriber delight is a critical metric for us. And we know that our subscribers come to Network Capital to find a very particular kind of content, a kind of content that you would not typically find on the internet. That again goes back to the category of one concept. What's our category of one in content? What can we do uniquely suited uh, in the digital world where our customers, our intimate understanding of their needs is constantly being challenged by the newness of different kinds of initiatives and innovative solutions that come our way. So by becoming one of the first platforms in the region to offer live cohort based courses, by bringing to bear some of the most interesting people on the planet to teach, by enabling our community members to become teachers, making them participants in the shared mission of building community and creating category of one content. I think we have understood intimately what kind of content do we want to leave? What should be our legacy on the internet? How do we be remembered not just as a person who created or an organization that created some digital noise or went viral for 5 minutes, but how about 100 years from now, or 200 years from now, or 500 years from now? Who knows? People still come back to a concept, perhaps find things like category of one relevant, perhaps find the masterclass that Indra Nooyi did, somebody somewhere learned something from it. So, keeping an eye of content and thinking about the long term is something that I wish more organizations and more people consider as a way of life. I spent a good chunk of my day, almost half of my day, reading, writing, and creating interesting content. So I teach on Network Capital, I write for Network Capital and for Harvard Business Review and the World Economic Forum, and then I read about it. But every bit of content that I create, I ask myself, is it going to be relevant 100 years from now? Yes or no? And the way to sort of get a simple answer towards that question is that what is something that will always be important? And I take some inspiration from what Jeff Bezos said in one of his shareholder letters. He said that I don't ask myself what is likely to change. I ask myself what will remain the same. And obviously Jeff Bezos is a whole different level of an entrepreneur, but like even young people like you and I can take inspiration in parts from whatever aspects of people we admire. And I think that's been a driving philosophy of Network Capital. How do we create a career and a mentorship ecosystem that will be relevant today, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now as well? At least that's our aspiration. Whether we succeed or not is multifactorial, but based on what we're seeing so far, the love from our community, the feedback that we get on our content, our cohort-based courses, etc., it seems to me that things are going in the right direction. But the essence is to keep coming back to the fact what will not change. I think even 100 years or 1,000 years from now, people will still care about their careers very much. They may or may not care about getting into INSEAD or Harvard or Stanford. Maybe these institutions will evolve and become something completely different. But do you ever think that there will be a time when people will actively want to mess up their careers? I don't think that will happen. The three aspects of meaningful work, autonomy, mastery, and purpose, will be to some extent in different shapes or form relevant even tomorrow. So imagine, like, let's conduct a thought experiment. In 1930, British economist John Maynard Keynes wrote a seminal essay called The Economic Possibilities of Our Grandchildren. Imagine in 2130, the economic possibilities of our grandchildren, if somebody were to look at it, will that still ring a bell? Will that still be relevant to people? And I think the answer is yes. Even if all the predictions of John Maynard Keynes come out to be false, just the thought process behind it is going to be really interesting. But as it turns out, John Maynard Keynes was in part right. His essay that he wrote in 1930, 100 years from now, 2030, to various elements of that are coming true. Same for my form of writing. In 100 years, will people not want to build their category of one? I don't think that will happen. People will always try to do something which adds meaning, helps them build their category of one. And this essay took me many days to write and think and research. But that one effort, that one long form marathon will serve me for the rest of my life. Think about it, listeners. I did one essay and I'm going to reap the benefits of it for the rest of my life. That's how you should think about content. Yeah? What can you do that will leave a lasting legacy? My book, The Seductive Illusion of Hard Work, at one point in time became an Amazon #1 bestseller. Many bookshops around the world had it recently. I went to a famous bookstore in London and they told me a few people bought copies of that. Those are all metrics. Doesn't matter. Will the ideas that I advance in my book, will they stand the test of time? Yes or no? Time will tell. But I hope at least I wrote it keeping the long term in mind. And so should you. Whenever people start doing stuff, you should become like, somebody who does second order thinking. When everybody is talking about the Tesla stock, you should pause and think, hey, what are others talking about but are missing, but they should be talking about? What is something that you really wish people discussed more? Instead of trying to add to the noise, I would say subtract it, dissociate yourself to some time for some time and see what specific value you can add at that particular time. So, as a rule of thumb, whenever I see people tweeting and twatting a lot about a certain subject, I disengage myself. I have come to realize that most of the digital noise makes zero sense 1 year from now, which is why Nassim Nicola Taleb, the legendary investor and writer, he says that I don't read newspapers for this reason. Pick up any newspaper and read it 1 year back. For example, today is 23rd of October 2021. Go read the paper of 23rd October 2020. You will find how ridiculous the claims are. Why? Because newspapers are written by people who are trying to optimize for, what do you call, engagement. Let me get 20 likes or 20,000 likes. Doesn't matter, won't stand the test of time. Hopefully, category of one, the concept will. Now, all of you are business minded people, tell me which is better. What would you want for yourself? Do you want to be the person who's remembered because, oh my God, he also or she also created digital noise? Or do you want to be the person who said, you know what, I want to build my category of one and I'm going to do something so unique that's going to be today, and true 100 years, 500 years from now? Please keep the long term mindset. That's something that people often don't do. But at least in my own capacity on Network Capital, the people who read my writing, the people who subscribe to networkcapital.tv, that's the one metric I want them to do. Look, compounding is the eighth wonder of the world. It's a quote wrongly attributed to Albert Einstein. These days on the internet, any photo and any little quote and Albert Einstein somehow seems to be true. It's not. Um, but compounding is truly a wonder. If all of us just strive to become 1% better as writers, as content creators, as community builders over a long enough period, we would have built our category of one. We often underestimate what we can do in a decade and overestimate what we can do in 1 year. So keep the long term mindset, keep thinking about what's going to be true 100 years from now and focus on that. It'll save you a lot of mental energy and it'll give you a lot of spiritual resilience to be able to observe something in a way that others don't. Look, good content creation is not about getting attention, it is about paying attention. Some of the best writers that I've ever read, some of the people who've made long lasting impact in my life, intellectually and otherwise, are those who observed minute details and figured out the most beautiful language to express it. And that's my secret hope for anybody who's listening to this and who might find some of the wonders of compounding, community, curiosity, etc., appealing. Um, Everything that I've told you, category of one, community, um, content, keeping the long term in mind, is meaningless if I take the lens of expertise. I hope you don't consider me an expert in anything. Expertise is misplaced. I hope that all of you think of me as a curious person with a deep willingness to learn. And curiosity is the ultimate superpower of any content creator. As I told you, it's all about paying attention, not getting attention. If I take my hair and light it on fire, sure, 5 minutes, I will enjoy digital fame. Perhaps there'll be memes floating around it. Perhaps a lot of TikTok videos are going to be created around it. But so what? Do you really want to be the kind of person or the kind of content creator who just talks about stuff for the heck of it? Over the long term, what will pay off is that you looking at your content as a stack. And the core pillar of your content stack, your community stack, your category of one stack is going to come down to where did you channel your curiosity? Expertise means that you already know everything that there is to know about something. And with that mindset, you cannot produce anything that matters. I'm not an expert on communities. I'm just somebody who finds communities fascinating. Because I find communities fascinating, I study its participants with a lot of curiosity and adventure. In those conversations that are curiosity induced, I find some conversations, some concepts memorable. Through the power of compounding, I've made myself into a better writer every single day. I don't want to be the best writer, I just want to be better every single day. Through the process of writing, I have scaled some of my ideas. The people who learnt about my ideas joined my community. A small section of the hundreds and thousands of people on Network Capital became monthly paying subscribers. When I got 1,000 monthly paying subscribers was the day I achieved financial independence in my own tiny way, in some shape or form. Look, I left Microsoft in the middle of the pandemic to pursue my passion, to pursue my dreams. Um, I wouldn't say I financially and like otherwise killed it and I'm on top of the world or anything, but I am stable, I am happy, and I'm comfortable with my choices. Why? Because I operate with the infinite game mindset. Got it? I'm not here to become better than anybody, just myself. This simple shift, keeping it all about curiosity than expertise, focusing a lot on micro experiments than one macro grand strategy, has enabled us to scale and hopefully serve and build a category of one on our terms. I don't answer to anybody except my community members. I am able to design my content because I've developed a deep, intimate understanding of who our users are. And when I focus on content, I focus a lot less on what do I know best, but rather what is something that I'm naturally and intrinsically so curious about that I can't help but write about it. Um, I could be wrong, but this is a quote by George Bernard Shaw or George Orwell. My apologies. I should have. Somebody asked them, "Why do you write?" And he said that I write for the same reason cow gives milk. And I think you should keep this metaphor in mind. This is something which is very curiosity inducing, right? Which is something that really propels you to look within. Everyone has a story. Everyone can train themselves to become excellent writers and content creators, but it cannot happen by looking outside. You need to turn the gaze inwards and ask yourself what is something that you can do? What is your category of one? And how can you use content, community, etc., to create your category of one stack? I think the more experiments you conduct, at least it worked for me, the more I realized that whenever I was naturally curious about something, the outcome was favorable. Whenever I was trying to sort of want to like something because everyone on social media seems to be talking about it, usually I ended up mentally and physically exhausted. Just to conclude this entire session, and I know there's some time for Q&A if you have, I want you to remember competition is for losers. Peter Thiel quotes it in his book. All of us would have heard it in some shape or form. Competition is for losers. Category of one is for winners. But the real winners are those who don't want to beat other people. The real winners are the ones who want to play the infinite game. And the whole purpose of an infinite game is to keep playing. So, my dear content creators, community builders, people who are trying to create your identity online and in the physical world, keep this principle in mind, keep the long term outlook in mind. And if at any point you need any help, somebody on Network Capital has your back. We are there to help you, serve you in all shapes and forms. And anybody can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My email address is utkarsh at networkcapital.tv. And we have made, thanks to the funding from Facebook, Network Capital need blind. So if you can't afford it, we have a scholarship fund, we have an endowment fund. We got your back. Go follow your dreams, follow your curiosity. I'm there, and the Network Capital ecosystem is there to help you achieve your dreams. Thank you so very much for paying attention. I hope some of these insights struck a chord with you, and I look forward to being in touch. Cheers.